Legends, welcome to Richard X, the channel. It's a little bit different. I'm switching things up, so I want to make this more personal and intimate, as opposed to being just when I have like a breakthrough theory or model that I think can deliver value. I want it to be more of what are my daily learnings, because I think that a lot of them are valuable. You know, I learn something and want to share it with all of my family and friends, because I think that it's those micro realizations that compound over time and actually have a huge effect on our life. So if you're looking to grow, to develop, to become intentional with the way that you live, to create the life that you want for yourself, then stick around. Welcome. Doing some thinking this morning about momentum, and I think it's kind of this abstract thing that we all want to generate. I think there are two kind of core steps the way I see it. The first is you got to be clear on your purpose. You have to be clear on what you want. The second, which is where I think there's so much room to take immediate action. Purpose, you know, is a big question. You have to do a lot of thinking and fleshing out. But the second way to build momentum, or the second requisite, is stacking the deck in your favor. Stacking the deck in your favor. And what I mean by that is, in the mornings, right, it's 6:30, it's nice and quiet. You can see the sun's come up. Nobody's around. Everyone's still sleeping, or they're inside. This is a beautiful time to just get easy wins. A good friend of mine would say, getting runs on the board. Yeah, you're just taking the opportunity to get those easy wins straight off the bat when there are no distractions, so that you start moving and you develop some momentum. One way to do this is the night before, think about ways that you can set yourself up for easy wins in the morning. So for example, having your clothes out, ready, folded in advance, so that in the morning you jump out of bed and bam, 2 seconds, you're dressed, you're ready to roll. Another easy win, just fold your bed. It's like, and after, as you fold it, be like, yeah, sick. I became proactive with that, and I just folded my bed. You know, it sounds really small, and some of you right now are probably like, what the? I've been listening 3 minutes to learn how to fold my bed. But it's small compounding wins that lead to some really significant momentum. Another example of at least one of my easy wins, semi-easy wins, is a cold shower. So I get in the cold, or I stumble out of bed. I'm like, oh, it's cold, and then I just don't give myself an option. I'm naked before I realize, standing under the shower head, and I just pull the trigger. And first 3 seconds is horrible, but then after about 10 breaths, when I turn the shower head off, I'm standing there like, hell yeah, hell yeah. I just overrode any kind of instinctive reaction. And that's a win. That's a run on the board. Another win is reading before people are awake. I'm like, yeah, that's another easy win. So it gets to 8 o'clock when some people have just woken up and gone straight to work, and I'm munching on breakfast in the car, versus having stacked the deck in my favor where it's 8 o'clock. I've eaten a beautiful meal, I've had a cold shower, I've made my bed, my room's clean, my space is clean, I've read a book, I've taken some notes, I've journaled, I've listened to some music to get me in the right state. And then who's going to have more momentum? Right? That's a pretty easy question to answer. So ask yourself then, when it comes to your morning routine. Some of you might not have a morning routine. I strongly recommend trying it out. See the effect that it can have, the compounding effect. I have this little saying that your state is your fate. So whatever state you find yourself in consistently is what ultimately determines your fate. So taking control of your state, becoming proactive with it every morning is so integral in my eyes. So what can you do in the morning to optimize your state, to generate that momentum? So when you start your day, whatever tasks you want to do, whatever goals you want to accomplish, whatever you want to create, what do you have to do in the morning? How do you stack the deck in your favor such that when it comes time to really crack on, you are ready, and you're ready, you've got the momentum. I'm trying to think of maybe some other small ways that you can stack the deck in your favor. It might be spending some time with a loved one. Often it's just waking up early to do something that is important but not urgent. This comes down to, it relates to Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of the habits is, I'm not exactly sure how he phrases it, but the idea that you have to invest in what's important and not what's urgent. And in a productivity-driven society, it's so easy to get caught up just in the urgent, the notification that's saying, yo, you gotta do me. The manager or boss or friend that says, hey, I need this right now. The email notification that says, yo, check out this promotion for the next 24 hours. And if we're not very careful, we end up spending our time and becoming consumed by urgent matters instead of important. Now, if something's urgent and important, 100%, that's like, go for it. But the urgent tasks that I'm talking about are the ones that aren't important. So how can you set yourself up to generate momentum, to focus on what's important, to get yourself in the right state before the urgent matters even have a chance to get near you, like in the early morning when it can just be you and yourself. But think about, for your routine, what are the small things that you know when you do them, you feel fucking amazing, right? What are those actions that when you take them, you're like, damn, that was good? It might be going for a run, might be making a smoothie, might be reading a book, might be journaling, might be meditating. All things that aren't urgent, but are very important over the long term. How can you, the night before, set yourself up, stack the deck in your favor so that come morning, those things can kind of happen automatically, so that you don't wake up and go, oh, what am I gonna do? Should I just snuggle back in bed? No, you wake up and you've got a schedule, you've got a game plan, you've already got things laid out so that you don't have to be overcoming any kind of friction in the morning. I think that's a really good point for generating momentum, especially so in the morning, is you have to remove all possible friction points. So what I mean by that is when I wake up and I want to have a cold shower, I know that a friction point for me is getting out of bed. Because if there's the possibility of staying in bed, I'm not in a resourceful state when I wake up to my first alarm. And chances of me just like nodding off back to bed, very high. It's happened before. It's not a good feeling when you wake up at like 10 o'clock and you're like, oh shit, I've got an appointment in 10 minutes. But stacking the deck in my favor looks like getting my phone and charger and proactively charging it on the other side of the room. So when my alarm goes off, it's easy. I don't have a choice, man. I've got to get out of bed. Otherwise that thing's gonna keep ringing and ringing. You know what else? I have about 3 alarms just in case. I usually don't need them, but I know they're all about 2 minutes apart. I know that if I jump out of bed and turn the first one off and then get tempted by going back to bed, I know there's going to be another one and another one that's going to get me. So I'm removing the friction point of the possibility of going back to bed. I removed that the night before by setting the alarms. I removed that the night before by putting my room on the other room on the other side of the phone, by putting my phone on the other side of the room. So I'm becoming intentional with what are the easy wins I can have in the morning to get me in the right state, to generate momentum. And then that's the first question. Then the second question is, what are the small micro behaviors that I can take the night before to stack the deck in my favor? So hopefully that provides some insight on maybe what you can do. Even if it just sparks the thought or the awareness. You don't need answers right now, but that might spark the thought or the awareness that, oh, you know what? Yeah, state really is important, and momentum really is important, and I haven't been doing very much to make sure that I'm in the right state. Because if you're just waking up flustered and then just going and doing what you want to do, that is not a life of intention. You know, if it's a game of probability, chances are you're not going to make the best decisions for your future when you're in that state. So yeah, as I said, guys, this is the first of many videos that I'm going to be putting up on YouTube. I've changed the name of the channel as well from Mental Mastery to Richard X, because I want this to be more of like an intimate day-to-day recording and sharing and connecting, as opposed to just when I have, you know, a big breakthrough or come across a model that I think is really going to drop value. I want it to just be the day-to-day learnings, because I think they're often the most valuable. They're just small micro learnings that, if put into place, compound massively. Mental mastery is still going to be a thing. It'll just be a series on the channel. So when I do come across like a really pivotal model or theory that can't just be explained in one of these videos, but requires more of an explanation and a deep dive, then I'll do a mental mastery video. But yeah, I really want to upload one of these every day, because with my, you know, this is a great learning process for me as well, in terms of getting comfortable in front of camera, connecting with like-minded people, which has probably been the most rewarding part so far. So thank you to everyone who's actually connecting with the content and becoming active with it, whether it's reaching out and saying, dude, that was really helpful, or whether it's just getting around one of the posts, or whether it's just watching it and applying it to your life. Like, that's the most rewarding thing, is when people reach out and say, oh dude, this just made me realize XYZ. It's like, sweet, that's the whole purpose of this. The whole purpose of this is to positively impact, right? And if there is one person who gets something out of every video, that's 365 people who have gained something valuable over the course of a year, and that's sick. That's really cool. Imagine if everyone did that, you know, unreal. So anyway, really kind of shifting the branding from Mental Mastery to Richard X. Actually, just while we're here, Richard X. So I've had a couple of questions about it, dude. Why? So a lot of you, probably most of you who are watching this, my actual name is Richard Jackson. What does the X represent? Why Richard X? So I read Muhammad Ali's biography late last year, yeah, so December. And for those of you who don't know, Muhammad Ali's name wasn't always Muhammad Ali, it was Cassius Clay. And then he changed his name to Muhammad Ali when he became Muslim, as it's kind of a pivotal point for him, where he said, my name, Cassius Clay, is just something I was given by people who really enslaved me and my people. Now, I'm not saying I've been enslaved or anything, but it got the cogs turning. I was like, that's really fascinating. So this guy has a name, but he's proactively said, you know what this name stands for it's not who I am. And then I read a little bit more into Malcolm X as well, whose initial name, he was called Malcolm Little. And similar concept when he became Muslim. And now I'm not sure about the sequence of events, chronologically, but he became Muslim and he appreciated the fact that his surname, Little, was just given to him and his family by slave owners, essentially, his masters. And this kind of coincided with a black rights movement. But the idea of letting go of some kind of monarch or some kind of overarching body that enslaves you or tells you who you are or controls you in any way, shape or form, and defining yourself how you wish. You are your own individual. You can become whoever you want. So it got me thinking, what does my name represent? Who is Richard Jackson? And if you guys have watched some of the other content, like the video on identity design, you know I'm very passionate about identity. I think it's such a driving factor in our lives, the way we see ourselves. And so this whole reading of Ali's book, really stepping into his shoes and seeing his perspective, got me thinking. And I truly believe that you can become anyone that you want. There's a foundational global belief of mine. If you think about it from a neurobiological perspective, the idea of you and who you are is your set of traits, characteristics, thoughts, behaviors. All of that from a neurobiological level is just a set of synapses, right? Neurons, cells in your brain, a set of synapses that connect in a certain way that are actually a representation of a particular belief or a particular behavior or response pattern. Now, when you then appreciate neuroplasticity, that those synapses and their strength, their connection is ever changing, especially so at my age and probably your age. I'm guessing that you're probably a peer of mine if you're watching this. If you appreciate that the idea of who you are is just those synapses and the behaviors or traits that they represent, and you also appreciate neuroplasticity, all of those traits, beliefs, everything can change. So, I've read Ali's biography. I've looked into Malcolm X. I've asked myself the question, who am I? Who is Richard Jackson? This set of traits, beliefs. Well, I also believe in neuroplasticity and the capacity to shift who you are into anyone that you want. And then I thought to myself, if I would have a name, what would it be? What represents that? What represents how I see myself? And X. That's it. X came up. X is that which cannot and never will be defined. And that's how I see myself. I'm just this network of synapses connected in this beautifully complex manner that represents a plethora of different traits and characteristics. And when I become proactive, I can shift those traits and characteristics into whatever I want. And that idea of being in a constant state of flux, of never being able to be defined or never being trapped in an identity, that's what X is. So those of you who are really close to me know that I actually prefer being called X. and it's a consistent reminder. You know, it seemed weird at first, but it's a consistent reminder that the way I actually see myself is not Richard. Richard is just a set of sounds that I respond to, right? It's just a set of syllables that get my attention. But X is who I really am. And then from there, I was like, sweet, okay, I want people to start calling me X. At least those of the people in my life who are close to me, who I know have my back and who support me and don't think that I'm a whack job. I mean, to be honest, I don't really give a shit, right? That's why I'm sharing it. Maybe one of you will ask yourself the question, who am I? And yeah, really get clear on that. But the point is, Richard X is an idea, and it's how I see myself, and that's why I've had the name shift from Richard Jackson to Richard X, and then also why, especially for this YouTube channel, I've shifted it from Mental Mastery being the name of the channel to just being a series within the channel. And I actually have a couple of really cool ideas, and I'm gonna launch another series on the channel, which I'm super keen for, and I'm just tossing up in my head, should I tell you, or should I wait? Fuck it, I'll tell you. So it's gonna be called 2 Open Books. And it'll essentially, something that, again, one of the most powerful questions in my life is, if you were to create a world, what would it look like? Like, what would change? And then that drives my action, because it's like, sweet, I have a responsibility to contribute to this universe in a meaningful way by asking myself the question, what would I change? How can I make this better? And then going out and doing it. And I think that something that is really lacking, especially with social media nowadays, is authenticity. We see so much, I don't want to say fake, because I don't believe that there's like fake shit online, or I'm sure that there is, but my real qualm when it comes to socials is that it's just not an accurate representation of our lives. So often you'll only see the real positives of someone else's life. And I did a video on this the other day, the pros and cons of social media. If we are just portraying the highlights, then it plays on our perspectives of what life should be like. Because we see, I'm about to sneeze. It's gone. Because if we base our perspective on what life should be like based on how we see our friends' lives on socials, well, all we ever see is the polished version. All we ever see is the good. And it can lead to upward comparisons to something that is not realistic. Everyone has shit in their life, man. Everyone's going through something. But our feeds don't reflect that, right? Our feeds just reflect what is great about our lives, what we're proud of, not the vulnerabilities, not the hardship, not the grit of this life, you know, the messiness. And so 2 Open Books, essentially how it's gonna run is I'm gonna pick someone who I've met in some way, shape or form, whether it's someone close or someone I've just run into, who I think is really interesting and who has shown they are comfortable with getting vulnerable. And then I want to have an open conversation, 2 open books, where I ask them the difficult questions, they ask me the difficult questions, and we just get real, you know, no filters, you know, like visually or metaphorically, like just being deep diving into the grittiness of life in all its beauty, and having that authenticity as having that authenticity on socials, I think is something that I truly value, and so I'd love to bring that to the space. So stay tuned, there's going to be some really cool stuff, and if you're already on it, if you're already supporting the channel, I fucking love you. straight up. I'm really appreciative for the support. So yeah, you know, if you want to stay in touch, whether it's subscribing or hitting the notification bell or commenting, whatever it is, if you're vibing the content, then just make sure you're connected, because I'll be doing videos every day. And sometimes as well, just FYI, if I miss a day, it's often I've still recorded a video, I just haven't uploaded it, so I'll just do a double upload the next day. But stay tuned, because there is so much to come, guys, and I really do want this as well to be not me speaking in front of a camera, right? Which is what I'm doing. I want it to really expand and develop into a network of people who are like-minded, because a core goal of mine or pursuit of mine is to create meaningful connections. And I think that I find that very rarely in life. I find that very rarely, because I know who I vibe with and who I don't. And if you're vibing this content, if you're vibing the purest and most vulnerable and open form of me in these vids, then we gonna vibe, we gonna be friends. So yeah, connect. And as the movement grows, as I bring more people into the ecosystem, you bring more people into the ecosystem, connecting to the channel, to the idea of living intentionally and becoming who you want to be, creating the life that you want to live. As that grows, I really look forward to connecting with everyone in a meaningful way and supporting one another in whatever way we can. So yeah, much love. Thank you if you're still watching this video, you're a champion. I really appreciate it, I really do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next couple of videos anyway, guys. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope you go and live intentionally. I hope you get momentum and clock whatever you want to accomplish. I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.